Welcome back to Glitter Hustle, and we are on episode number 2 of this wonderful podcast. We're just getting started, so as we get into this more, it's going to become more story time. The more that you send in comments and subscribe, the better I will be able to tailor what I talk about to what you want to hear. So for today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of stories that happened this past weekend at the club. One of them having to do with a customer, and one of them having to do with one of the other dancers. So one of the biggest things I think people always are curious about when it comes to dancing and stripping in Vegas is how you make money. I think that in general, it's just typical sales. If you're good at sales, you're going to be good at stripping. It's the same concept. So, every girl out there has their sales tactic, has the way that they go about actually approaching their customers, has the way how they take them upstairs and take them into VIP, and or they just do basic dances on the floor too. And some girls are what we call baby strippers. So baby strippers are girls that have just started dancing, don't really know the ropes yet. They're starting to get to understand how to work the floor, that kind of thing, and make their money. So this past weekend, I had an interaction with a baby stripper in the club. She has only been dancing for about 4 months or so. She's brand new at this, so she doesn't understand yet how to really upsell clients and really give them what they want, really fulfill their fantasies and all of those kinds of things that the guys come in and the girls come into the club for. That's something else we can talk about too, by the way. This is a relatively gender neutral kind of topic because we have lots of women that come into the club as well. So anyway, back to our story. This young baby stripper came up to me and said, okay, I've been talking to these 2 guys. My guy wants to go outside the club. The other guy sitting with him wants you. Okay, this is a normal request. If I had $1 for every guy that wants to take you outside of the strip club, I wouldn't have to strip anymore. So this is not an unusual request. It happens all the time, but it is illegal. That's the first thing you have to remember too. As a dancer, you have to draw very, very strict lines about what you are willing to do and what you are not. It is illegal. Prostitution is illegal in Las Vegas. So while I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, if you're going to do it, you have to understand there are very significant, severe consequences if you decide to do that. Personally, I don't want to risk my own personal, professional life for a few extra dollars. So this particular baby stripper was talking to me about how these guys wanted to go outside the club. And she goes, I don't care, you can lie to them, say that you're going to meet them outside the club and then not meet them. She's like, I'm just trying to get some money off of them before they leave. And I will be honest, also, this is a very common tactic. Some girls will get, a few $100 to $1,000 from these guys before they ever even leave the club. And then they will promise to meet them in their hotel room or whatever afterwards. I personally don't do that. Again, as a dancer, you have to draw very significant lines and know that you're not going to cross them. That's a line I don't cross. I am there, not saying that everything that I say to these men is truthful, but it's also not there to manipulate and to take advantage either. They know exactly what they're getting when I talk to them. I tell them exactly what's happening. I don't ever try to deceive. I don't try to deceive them. So, this is what I told the baby stripper. I told her, listen, I was like, I'm not gonna judge you. You can do what you gotta do. Do your thing, but I'm not gonna be a part of it. The few $100 that you might get from these guys, promising them to come meet them outside the club is not worth it. If you get caught even doing this and soliciting, that is considered a crime. So if you're happy to be talking to somebody in the club and they get you to engage with them in that particular manner and then you agree to it, it is a crime. You can get arrested for that. That is considered soliciting prostitution. You are considered a prostitute. So, that's the risk that you take when you do those kinds of things, when there's any kind of money exchanged. And even if there's not money exchanged, just the promise of it, same thing. So that is something that you have to understand you're taking a risk of doing. But also beyond that, I'm just a big believer in karma, right? So I don't want to go out there and tell anyone that I'm going to give them something that I'm not going to give them. I believe that whatever you put out into the universe, as far as your energy, whatever, you get back 10 times over, the good and the bad. So I'm going to only try to put out good stuff. I'm not going to try to put out bad stuff because I know if I put out good karma, I'm going to get good karma back. If I put bad karma out there, I'm going to get bad karma back. It is a boomerang effect. So, I just broke it down for her and I said, listen, this is how I operate. If you feel like your stance is a little different, totally fine. Again, I'm not going to judge you. I'm just not going to be a part of it. This opened up a whole conversation with her. Now, again, she's a baby stripper. She's brand new at this. She doesn't know how to upsell or anything like that. So that opened up a conversation. He goes, can I ask you a question? Can you tell me how you get people into rooms? Can you tell me how you sell the VIPs? Can you give me some ideas on how to get people up there? I just don't even know where to start. So that started a whole conversation between her and I. And, I just tried to give her some helpful tips that could increase her revenue, make her experience at the club better, and make her customers' experience better too. I said, listen, I'm very, very straightforward when I talk to my clients when they come into the club. I tell them exactly what they're going to get. I tell them exactly what it is that they're buying. I don't sugarcoat. Of course, I use flirtatious language, and of course, I try to make them feel good and feel special, and again, fulfill that fantasy. But there's a big, big difference between fulfilling a fantasy and selling a lie. And I don't sell a lie. I sell them the truth with a little bit of sugar and spice sprinkled on top. So we had a great discussion. I don't know if anything that I told her actually helped her throughout the night. She did end up going back and talking to those guys. So maybe she got them to do some more dances. I don't really know. But hopefully that helped her and will help her in the future as she becomes into her own as a dancer. Again, I go back to, at the end of the day, when I come outside of the club, I am not a stripper outside of the club. I am only a stripper inside the club. When I'm outside the club, I am myself. I am not Mynx. I am my actual ego, not my alter ego. And I still have to look myself in the mirror in the morning. And I want to make sure that when I leave the club, the people that I interacted with, the clients that I was there with, they enjoyed their time. They're glad they spent the money that they did. They had a fantastic experience. We are there to sell an experience. We are there to sell the fantasy. We are there to fulfill their fantasies and their dreams and things that they want to just let go of for a few hours in the club, right? So again, I go back to, I just want them to be satisfied when they leave. And this is something that I hear a lot too from the managers. Some of the girls in there, they do get complaints. It is a thing. As a dancer, you get complaints if you are, skeezy, for lack of a better word. If you're trying to manipulate, if you're trying to sell something that you don't actually give, right? And girls do get complaints. Personally, I've been told they don't get complaints about me. So again, that goes back to, I can't be perfect. I'm not saying that I'm like this perfect stripper or anything like that. And I haven't done anything that's been a little bit questionable for some people. But at the same time, I do try to go into it with the best of intentions. And I think intention is the crux behind it. I think if you have good intention, again, you go into this wanting to give your client, your customer a great time. That's what's most important. At the end of the day, of course, you're going to have people that are not satisfied. You're going to have people that want more than you want to give them. But what you come at them with the good intentions, I think makes all the difference. So again, if this is the kind of topic and kind of thing that you want to hear more of, please subscribe here. Also drop your comments. Ask more questions about this kind of stuff. If you want to know more about baby strippers, if you want to know more about making money, tactics that we use in order to make money, all of those kinds of things, subscribe and drop that comment below. Now, second story for today. This past weekend was tough starting out. My first night that I worked was Friday, and it was horrible. So you're always going to have those nights that are not great, and Friday was my night. So I work about 4 nights a week, and I find that there's always going to be one night that really, really blows, and there's going to be one night that rocks, that's just awesome, it exceeds your expectations, and the other 2 are going to be about average. So they all kind of average out together. So if you have a really crappy night one night, you got to make sure that you keep your attitude, because you are going to have a good night, and they are going to average out. You are going to have a good weekend if you just keep that kind of positive mentality up. So my Friday night was terrible. I'm not even gonna lie, my Friday night was terrible. Probably the worst Friday night I've ever had. And then I went on Saturday, and Saturday was one of my best nights that I've had. So Saturday ended up being a really, really good night for me. Not only was it revenue-wise really good, but it was a lot of fun too. I had a blast. Now, one of the questions I get a lot from people is, do you get celebrities and famous people and athletes and, all those kinds of things inside the club? And the answer is yes, we do. So we actually had an athlete in the club this past weekend that nobody knew who he was. So, very young guy, really good looking guy, very, very soft spoken, but he was in a sport that, unless you're a fan of the sport, you just kind of wouldn't know who this person is, right? So really, again, really sweet kid, young, 21 years old. He was there with a couple of friends. There was a big competition in town this past weekend, and they were all there to support the competition. Now, this particular guy was supposed to be competing in it, but he had a broken leg. He had injured himself, so he wasn't able to actually compete. So he just came to experience the competition with his friends versus actually competing in it. So anyway, so I'm sitting there talking to him for a few minutes. We go and end up doing, about an hour worth of VIPs, and then he goes back with his friends. And, I already knew something was a little bit different about him because he paid for his friends to get VIPs too. Now, when you got a 21-year-old kid that's busting out the credit card to pay for himself and his friends in VIP, you know that there's something a little bit special about this kid, right? So this was around 11 o'clock or so that evening. So when I got finished with him, it was probably, a little bit after midnight or so, somewhere around there. I worked until 7 a.m. Again, it was a very good night, so I didn't leave. And he was still there when I went and clocked out. He'd gone to VIP with, I think, 3 other girls. He had paid for his friends to go to VIP with 3 other girls. So his money was racking up really, really, really high on his tab and things like that. One of the last guys that I danced for took him upstairs to go to VIP, and he saw the kid. And the guy that I brought up saw the kid up there at the VIP table and said, "Oh my God, this is so-and-so." I was like, "Who?" Like, nobody knows who this kid is, right? He goes, "You don't understand. In our world, for this particular competition, this particular sport," he goes, "in our world, he is top 5 in the world in what he does. He is one of the best, worth, $30 million or something like that." He goes on and on and on and starts talking about this kid and all the things he's done and accomplished at this young age and everything like that. And the funny part is literally nobody in the club knew. Nobody in the club knew who he was. Nobody knew. He was super soft-spoken. He was really quiet, really shy, very, very respectful in and out of the VIP. I mean, you never would have guessed that this guy was anything out of the ordinary. He just looked like a normal kid. But again, we all knew something was a little different just because of the amount of money that he was actually spending, and the fact that he was spending it on his friends too. So that always tells you there's something a little bit special. But again, the last guy that I took up there, he was just fangirling over this guy, to be honest with you. He was like, "I can't believe he was up here," and he went and said hi to him. They knew each other. They were in the same industry. Just one of them was behind the scenes, one of them's an athlete. And so he went and said hi to him. He's like, "I think I just got brownie points with him for being up here in the VIP of the strip club with such and such." I was like, "Yeah, you probably did." And so as I'm dancing for him, he's like, "I just realized too," he's like, "you are a spitting image of his mom." I started laughing. I was like, "Well, that makes sense as to why he would be attracted to me then." And the funny part is that once he said that, like, the other girls that he had taken to VIP were very similar in looks to me, very similar as far as our ethnicity, our look, our hair color, all of our body shapes, all of that. So all of that made a lot of sense, but it just kind of made me giggle a little bit that I look like his mom. But yeah, so that was probably the most unassuming famous person that I've ever danced for, because I didn't even know he was famous. Nobody else in the club knew either. When I left, I told all of the hosts, I said, "That was so-and-so." I was like, "Apparently he's really, really good at what he does, and he's top 5 in the world at what he does." And literally nobody had a clue. Nobody had a clue who he was. So that just goes to show you that I treated him like any other person. I think he appreciated that too. I think that's something when you're in a specific world where you are the top of your game, you probably get treated a little bit differently all the time, as was evidenced by the guy that I went into VIP with that was fangirling over this kid with. So while he was there in the strip club that night, he could be who he wanted to be. He could just be himself. He didn't have to keep up an image. He didn't have to worry about, people just, fangirling over him all night long, right? So it's again, a really cool place where some people like that are in the public eye can come and just relax and be themselves and just let go. So that was actually a really, really fun night. That was, again, my best night of the weekend. And came out of it with a pretty cool little story. And probably that was, once I looked up who this person was, I was like, "Oh, that's probably the most famous person I ever danced for." So it was pretty cool. So again, these are just some of the fun things that happen every week in the club. And it's a really cool experience sometimes to meet these people from different walks of life and to get to know them and to just be a part of their story in one way or another. So again, if you enjoyed this and you're enjoying Glitter Hustle, please subscribe and shoot me a quick message or comment. Let me know what more you'd like to hear about, what other stories you'd like me to tell. We got something fun that happens every weekend. I've got several from this weekend that I haven't talked about that I could actually go on forever about, but I want to keep these little podcasts relatively short to start. As we start to get to know you as the audience and what you like, then we'll start building on them a little bit more and give you guys some more fun and juicy details of the Vegas nights here and Glitter Hustle. So as always, and as we start going through this journey together, I'm Mynx, and make sure that you follow along, subscribe, and show some love, give some likes, give some comments, and let me know what you want to hear about. We'll see you next time on Glitter Hustle.